Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Well, I'm a little bit late, but I've still made it. And welcome everybody tonight. Let me go ahead and get ready here and drop the link. Anybody wants to come in and all. And there's the link. Pin it. And there it is. Hey, Bundy and Russell and Clay. Hey, Mike, Mark. What do we got here? We got Brian. We got Bill coming in. And Bill's feeling better, hopefully. And there's Sandy. And now I just got talking on another chat there to a guy that didn't understand a double screen bottom board or a double screen board. He's heard about using it, for the heat aspect of it. I was telling him about using it for a queen right cell builder. And I said, you're breaking the pheromone information trail. So anyway, and then you get the what do you call it? The instant message of the chat message. This is way too beyond me. I don't know what this is about, And I'm like, well, then why don't you come in and ask questions and learn something?
Yeah. Really?
Even though you're a beginner beekeeper, expand your knowledge base.
Yep.
That's my opinion of it.
Yep. Wow.
Hey, Keith and Tytrone. Hey, Pete. And all that. So anyway, well, it was a pretty day today. It was about 70 degrees here. Hey, Todd. And all that.
We hit 80 here.
Really?
Yep.
I think we might get that tomorrow. I'm not sure.
And we had a couple swarm calls in the area. So.
Hey, Hope. Did they call you or what?
Yeah.
And then what do? Go get them or?
No, I call somebody to go get them. I call somebody that I know is going to answer the phone and go get them.
I see.
So.
But no, we worked here today and I worked on a couple different tabletops people wanted. So one of them was one of those live edge things and had to do a lot of manipulation and planing and everything else.
How do they turn out when you do them? They turn out pretty good.
Well, I don't really do that kind of stuff. They brought it from another guy that comes here occasionally.
Yeah.
You had two live edges. It was a great big piece of walnut about, I don't know, 30, 40 inches wide.
Wow, that's a pretty big piece of walnut.
Well, it was 2.5 inches thick. So we cut one of the live edges off. So he had two pieces like that. And then he's buttoned them together. So he wanted 42-inch wide tabletop.
Wow.
And so we threw it on the sawmill and chalked a line to kind of get the cut just right.
Yep.
We got that done. My brother had to leave with on a situation, and so it was me and the help. We took it and planed it, and I got it to where it would go through my nice planer that I have, and it's a double-sided jointer planer. So we got the bottoms completely. Hey, Jack and Danette.
Hey, Jack and Danette.
And got the bottom smoothed up, and then I worked on the top and got it down to where it was 2 inches thick. And then we jointed the edges and put it together, and it worked fine. And he was happy, and I was happy to get rid of it. People talk about me making them things. I said, I have no way. They are work from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I got that done. Somebody else wanted a regular square type tabletop.
Yeah. They're a
So,
lot easier to do.
yeah,
Square ones.
like the one guy wanted 26 inches. And I'm like, well, you got to have 3 pieces. That's all there is to it. So, let's see, what do we got here? But anyway, that's what I did today.
Yeah.
And then last night I went out there at 8 o'clock at night after dark, and I had moved a nuke to put in a spot where I had a dead out in my uh, production hive area.
How'd that go for you?
It was good. I had put it out there 2 days ago when it was cool,
Yeah.
cold, and I locked them in with 1/8 inch hardware with a screen bottom board for 2 days. And I went out there last night. Today was the third day, and I pulled the screen and I put a bunch of pine needles branches in front of the entrance, so they had to crawl out of there and say, "Hey, something's changed. We need to reorientate." So I went out there today, and they were flying back in through the needles and stuff. So they must be, feeling at home now.
Well, that's good.
So I figured I'll go out there tomorrow afternoon after work and transfer them into 10 frame. And then the next thing I need to do is I got 4 nukes left, and I haven't been in them. I need to look at them and see where they're at
Yeah.
and all that stuff. If anything, I mean, the way the weather is, like you were saying, I looked at it and here all the local weather, a lot of 50 degrees all the way through the week at night, and a lot of pretty much 70 degrees all next week through the day. And I'm perfect for grafting cells. So I'm going to go out there and see if I can find a nuke and maybe see how the population is. I'm pretty sure they're pretty damn strong.
Yeah.
And switch it around and put a double screen board in there, and I don't know, shake some, put some nurse bees off and everything down in the bottom and all that stuff, and put her upstairs, put a double screen board in, and come back a day later or so.
Yeah.
And then how it goes. I mean, I'm not sure. And then I haven't got a phone call for Georgia, and I don't know whether we're going to get hit right at the same weekend as your class or what. I'm not sure.
Well, good luck. That's all I got to say. Good luck.
What's that?
I'm setting, going down there to get bees.
I'm not sure whether they're going to make it this week. We haven't got a phone call. I asked my friend, "Are you going to call down?" He said, "No, because they get pissed off if they do get a phone call, and they get mad about it." I said, "Really?"
Wow.
And all that stuff. And
so how many packages did he sell this year?
I don't know, 150, 200, something like it. Wasn't much. I said, "Are you even worth going down there for that?" And he said, "Yeah, but I think this is the last trip." It's been going down and down and down every year, it seems like. And the days when I first started, we would do 800 packages, 400 a trip. Go down, grab 400, come back, get rid of that, wait a week or so, go back down, grab another 400 and come back.
Wow.
And then it got down to where it was just one truckload a year.
Mm.
And then it's been getting smaller and smaller each year.
Wow.
I know that. Anyway, that's what's happening. But whether we start out first thing in the week to go down there, I don't know. Usually we always go down Easter weekend.
Yeah. So I'm setting up a cell builder Monday.
All right. When you're doing a queen right cell builder?
Yep.
So when you're setting it up, you're going to put your queen upstairs along with the brood.
Double screen.
The double screen board. What are you putting in the bottom part of it? Are you putting 10 frames, or are you putting only so many frames of stuff and shaking a ton of nurse bees?
It's going to be 2 frames of capped brood, a frame of honey, a frame of pollen, and then blank frames.
In the bottom.
And then in the bottom. And then I'm going to go get from the rest of the apiary, I'm going to shake nurse bees into a Tupperware container.
In the bottom.
Yeah. And then I'm going to come dump them in the bottom and put the double screen board on it, then put the queen right box on top of that with the entrance facing out of the back.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like single brood box manipulation at that point for the rest of the week until we graft.
Yeah.
Because
so in that situation, I watched some videos. Some people stay 24 hours, some say 48. They go in there and they put their grafting frame in there and they let it sit, let's say, for 2 days. Queen's upstairs, double screen board.
Yep.
And they got part of the cells drawn. It ain't capped, obviously.
Yep.
And then they switch the boxes around and put a queen excluder in.
That's a queen right finisher.
And then they finish those cells out.
On top. Yep.
You know, I've done it where I've had a queenless
finisher.
Starter finisher where out of a nuke where I left them. What I do is I graft and I leave that rack in there for 6 days.
Yep.
And on the 6th day, she's capped. And then so I pull that out and I put it in my incubator.
Yes. See, the way that I'm going to set this first cell builder up, that's one way of doing it. And the way it's going to be taught in the class is the way that cell builder is set up. And we're going to go over some other variations of cell builders. But the one that everybody's actually going to do is going to be the Queen Right cell builder with a double screen board in between the 2 boxes.
Right.
So that right there, that is the most successful and most common cell builder.
Well, I quote, don't have any experience with that, but what I like about it is like, they'll say, well, you have to move your queen. Well, no, with this, you don't have to move anything. It's all one unit.
Yeah.
And and then when you flip it back the other way, where she's a queen right cell finisher, then the hive doesn't feel like they're in despair.
Right. Exactly.
It's like there's no, well, they were always talking about, I've always heard about where the bees get demoralized.
Yeah. It's a sense of doom and despair for the bees, and they just lose all willingness to do anything.
Yeah.
When you do
but
it.
If you keep that, if you flip it back and forth like that, they don't get that attitude, I don't think.
Right. No, they don't, because they know that there's a queen there now, and they think that they have been successful in their work of building these queen cells. So they feel successful and they will continue to work. But when that cell builder is on the bottom, you continue to pull full frames of capped brood out of the top and put it in the bottom to keep your nurse bee population up. That way you don't have to continually shake bees into it. You're just doing it with frames of capped brood.
But you got to start out with a big pile of nurse bees that you gathered up first.
Exactly, because all those older nurse bees are going to become foragers for that part of the hive there. And they're going to bring in pollen and nectar. So when you switch it and that box comes up to the top to finish those cells, once those cells are finished, you let that cell builder work for a week. And that way they put the honey in there. Then when you get ready to do it again, you strip the honey out of it. You flip it. So they now think they're queenless again, and they will continue to work, and they will continue to build those cells.
Right. I mean, the one thing I seen the guy up in Canada where he kept it down to where it's like 3 frames with a feeder in there, which kind of made the bees condense themselves only on them. Well, the one frame was the cell cap.
Yeah, it was the grafting
you know, and
yeah.
then what you're saying to go after once you kind of get past the first batch, that's when you kind of keep the brood in there for them to hatch.
Yep.
And put some old brown brood in there to getting ready to hatch.
Yeah,
then it becomes more of an automatic. It's kind of like on autopilot.
Yeah,
of keeping the nurse bees going.
Exactly, because that queen now, she's going to keep those nurse bees. She's going to keep laying eggs in that bottom, and because you have cells at the top, they're going to come. Those nurse bees are going to come up. Some are going to stay on the brood, and the others are going to go up to the cells to finish them.
Yeah. Now Todd, he says he follows the Bob Benny, which pretty much, from what I've seen of his hives, is pretty much what we've been discussing.
Yeah. But he does it similar to what we're talking about. It's a little bit different. Everybody has their own quote unquote spin on it. So, like this same method, Randy Oliver's got a spin on it. Ian's got a spin on it.
Yeah,
Corey Stevens got a spin on it.
I watched that one that Randy did with. It was like 3 boxes, and I see what he was trying to do, and I'm like, man, that's too confusing.
Yeah, it is. It's the way he does it. It's very confusing. But the way that I'm going to teach it, we have been doing this for a few years now, and it's that the way I'm going to teach it is the most successful cell builder that we use, because we use a couple different types, and it is the most successful one. So,
well, like I say, I got these these nukes that I haven't messed with them for weeks, and it's like things are gotten warmer, and I'm sure she's laying up a storm.
Yep.
And she might be getting close to swarming, and that's really, as Mark Miller says, you want them when they get right to the point where they're going to swarm.
Yep. You want them to cook a little bit. You want them to cook a little bit so they get to that point.
And that's the time to put that graft in there, and they're like, boom,
Yeah, they're right on. They're on it, and they build them out. So, and you could be a sloppy grafter, and they're still going to build that cell out because they feel that need to build them out. So,
well, that's my kind of what I want to do today or Saturday, since it's going to be nice and 70, 80 degrees. Hey, Ben. And is that get in there, check them nukes out. Maybe I think I might be doing some splits. There's Scott.
Hey,
Haven't
Scott.
seen you in a long time. Where you been at?
I've been busy.
Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I have a good report. My cousin come up, and his son came along with him, and I guess you would call him an engineer, and he used to work for Black & Decker.
Okay.
And he's got CAD programming and a 3D printer.
Okay.
And darn if he didn't, within 2 days, he had my little gear made. And like,
okay. Yeah.
And all that. I was like, I mean, it was like that night he said, well, here's your gear. It's made. I mean, my goodness. And he explained that he had to do a CAD drawing of that gear and then feed it into that computer.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So
yeah, so like most 3D models, I mean, there's a few different pieces of software that can do it, but most people use something called Tinkercad. So to make the 3D models, Tinkercad does.
Well, let me put it to you this way: he's making things like you would see Black & Decker making.
Sure.
Like a battery operated some type of flashlight with a lens that you can flip up and down.
Right.
And you can go wide or narrow, like a beam of light and stuff. He's designing things like that.
Gotcha.
He quit Black and Decker, and he said there was a guy who was I'll call him a lead engineer or something, which quit Black and Decker, and that guy started his own company and hired my cousin's son to do, and they're brainstorming new tools and things to say, hey, look at this tool here. We'll sell you the rights to make it or something like that. I guess that's how it works. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, 3D printers, I mean, they're great for protyping, new
he does a lot of prototype.
Yeah, they're great for doing that. So, I mean, the expanding, I mean, I think that's what they were originally created for, but they've expanded way beyond that now, and they're getting even way more sophisticated than the ones that I have. I mean, I think in probably the next 5 years, I think they'll probably be able to run at probably triple the speed. And, they'll be able to print with some different materials. Right now, I think the strongest material we can print with the ones that I have is carbon fiber, which is pretty strong. I mean, it's pretty durable for things and stuff like that. But I think they'll be able to print, I
don't know much about all that, but I was just surprised how fast he got her done.
Oh yeah, well that's great. I'm glad you got it done. So
I just got to put it back on the machine or whatever and stuff like that. So how's the bees in your world up there?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I jumped in here real quick, because I wanted to ask you and Bill just to get your opinion on it, right? So I'm a little concerned about at the 18th of April, I'm a little worried about mature drones, right? Like I should say the lack thereof, right? The lack
thereof.
Yeah,
everything I can tell you right now, Scott, you're not that far from me.
Right.
And we're 4 weeks behind the times.
Right. Well, so
compared to last year.
So I had 4 colonies survive. I went in, I lost 2 colonies right at the end of fall. So I only had 6 going into winter, and then I lost 2 during that really super cold time that we had in February. So I lost 2 of them then. So I only had 4 coming out of winter, but they were all 3 of them were really good population, with one of them just like super, super big. I mean, like so many bees in there. I can't believe there was that many bees at the end of winter. But in any event, what I noticed when I went into that particular colony today, I spent almost an hour and a half pulling every single frame out of that colony.
And how big's this Hive?
I mean,
we talking double deeps here?
It was 2 double. It was 2 deeps, and it was boiling over with bees. Okay.
Well,
so,
that's great.
Yeah. So, and I spent an hour and a half looking. I looked at every single frame 3 times. I looked at the sides of the boxes and everything else, because I found cap queen cells in there. So
they're getting ready to swarm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the queen, so that I can move her, and I can't find her. So I think did
you make a shaker box?
I didn't. So I looked everywhere for her, but there's eggs in there, right? So
she's still there.
She's still there.
I'm thinking there's eggs in there. She's got to still be there, right?
Yeah, but what you need to do in that situation is demo-read that girl.
Yeah. You've got more than enough of a population of bees to do it.
Yeah.
How many frames of cat brood did you have in that hive? 6? 8?
Probably 8.
All right.
That right there is more than enough.
That's the signal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's running out of space, and they're like, "Hey, let's."
Oh yeah, no doubt, right? And I had a super on there too, right? But they weren't really messing with the super too much. I mean, like there was just a
No.
few bees up in there. They weren't really touching it.
No, they're not going to be. What you should do, you go in there, you take that, take that top deep off, put it over top of a lid,
Right.
upside down lid. You go in that bottom box there, you pull out every cap brood frame there is, and it's probably capped 95% at least, right? Most of them frames.
Yeah, I mean, most of it was capped, but I mean, there was a lot of backfilling as well, right? So there was like, you know, where other brood had come out, there was definitely eggs, and you know, I'd say probably larvae around.
Now, when you say backfilling, we talking brood or we talking
no, backfilling with brood?
See,
like backfilling with eggs, and there was probably like maybe larva that was like probably like 6-7 days old, something like that, or whatever.
All right, now the point that you're at right there, that right there is telling me that queen is out of room. That's why you're seeing all those queen cells.
Right.
She wants more room.
Right.
So now you need to take that bottom box, set it off as well, set an empty box there.
Yeah.
Put 2 or 3 frames of cap brood in it, and a bunch of drawn comb.
Right.
Find that queen through a shaker box, put that queen in there, put a queen excluder on it, 2 or 3 honey supers, and take that other box of the brood chamber.
Yeah.
Kill all those swarm cells unless you're going to do a split.
Right.
Set it on top of the medium, on top of queen excluder, then set that other one on top of that.
Yeah.
Those nurse bees in there, they're going to create more queen cells. Come back in 7 days, kill those queen cells, or make a split, use them for splits. That's a demo ray.
Yeah, right. I mean, here's the only problem with the demery is that my yard is too far away from me to properly manage a demery. So I would have to practice. I would have to live at my yard, right? Because it takes me like
7 days, a 7-day cycle.
I'll put it to you this way. Right now, you got 2 dead outs, right? You got 2 dead outs with comb.
Right.
I would take that hive and I'd be making some with them queen cells. Utilize them babies and take 5 frames out of there of some open larvae and some cap queen cells and cap brood.
Right.
Well, along with the bees, put that right in there. And you got yourself a ready-made split with queen, you know.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. So, like, I'm thinking that that as many bees that's in this box and with some capped queen cells, I'm thinking I'm going back on Sunday and actually going to at least split that colony once. But
you could probably split it 4 or 5 times. You could probably get up back 4 or 5 splits out of that one colony if it's got that number of bees in it.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I was just like, even I had the second box over on it. Like I have a table behind, and I had like the second box over there on top of the quilt board. And when I looked back over at the bottom deep, it was still just kind of like over. I was like, where are all these bees coming from?
A volcano of bees.
I know.
And what I would do in your situation, you got 4 deep sitting there empty, right?
Yeah.
With comb in there, right?
Right. Yeah.
There you go.
Actually, there's even like 2 frames that are full of honey in there. I had to actually close that one colony up in February because they were robbing it out.
Well, that's fine.
That's fine. Let them rob it out.
Yeah.
But that's 4 splits right there.
Yeah,
if you've got 4 dead outs, that's 4 splits.
Well, so the rest of it is the colony right next to this one is just slightly smaller, and
then pull some brood and put over there.
They've got a couple of queen cells in there that are charged, but they're only like just slight. So they're just starting to draw the cups down. So they're just a little bit bigger than a cup. And they're
I'll go back on that. Is that queen slow? Is she poor?
I mean,
sound like you just told me that that they don't have a lot of brood. They don't have a lot of this, a lot of that.
No, I mean, I think the brood pattern looks nice on that on that
Okay.
second colony. I think it looks nice. I think it's pretty, it's pretty end to end. It's just that I think they're starting to run out of room too. So they're starting, to get that. So I was able to find the queen in that colony, and I did already move her to one of those empty deeps.
Well, look, you got this here volcano hive, right? You got double
Right.
deep right now. Okay. Right. You get yourself a queen excluder and you take over there at them other hives. You pull 5
Right.
frames of empty whatever out of their combs,
Okay.
long comb, put it off the side.
Right.
You go into volcano hive here and
Right.
you pull the frame that's got a couple of them queen cells on it. They're nice looking.
Yeah.
You put that in there and you put in some cat brood in there.
Right.
I mean, shake the bees off, just
Right,
shake
right.
the bees off
Right.
and bring some open, maybe a little bit of open brood, shake the bees off. So you pull 5 frames out of that box. All right. And you take them 5 empty frames and you put them in that box.
Yep.
Now put the queen excluder on. You got a double deep still. You
Right.
put that box up on top. You wait 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Those nurse bees will go right up there.
Right.
They're going to fill that, cover up that cat brood that you put up there along
Right.
with them queen cells.
Right.
You just made a split. You know where the queen's at. It's down in that other box.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the quickest and easiest way of doing it. The most
Yeah.
efficient.
Do a vertical split.
And then
Fair.
just then pull that box off and set it on its stand.
Right.
You got a queen cell in there, a couple queen cells. You got eggs and larvae of all different stages, and you got nurse bees to go along with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, would you lock those bees up for a while, Bill, or not?
Yeah, I'd lock them up for at least 24 hours.
Yeah, or at least I'll say a couple days.
So, I was actually thinking about doing that with the one split that I did because, obviously, the foragers are going to go back to the original spot, right? But I actually had it closed up, and then right before I left, I thought, no, I better give them an entrance, so I went in and opened it up for them. But
Right?
Well,
It's
see, here's the other.
I said, don't overthink it, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. But here's the thing
Right.
that you do have to think about. When was the last time before you saw these queen cells that you were in this hive?
that's the very next thing I was going to say, right? So Charlie knows, the weather has been terrible here, right? So I have not really been able to get into them. So today was the first time I was really able to take those boxes apart. It was about 74 degrees or so, it was really super windy, but it was, it was warm, right? So this was the first time since I was throwing, just lifting the lid and slipping some fondant and stuff in there, in early March and stuff. But otherwise today, and that's why, I was just astonished. I was not expecting to see so many bees in there. Where did all these bees come from? And with just the weather's been so terrible. But so today is the first day
last
I've really
week
been
it was
able to
cold
do
as ice and it was raining. We needed the
Yeah.
rain and it
So
was cold. And
it. Well,
now,
just 2 days ago, it was 29 degrees.
yeah.
well,
You
if
know?
it were me and these were my bees, and you've got 8 or 10 queen cells,
Right.
and they're all capped, right?
Yeah. Well, no. So here's the thing. So I found 3 of them that were completely capped, but I found probably at least 4 more that were charged and had a bunch of jelly in them and everything, but they just weren't completely drawn down and capped yet. So,
All right. So if you take one of those 3 that are capped
Mhm.
and sacrifice it and open it up and see where that queen's at in her development,
Right.
that'll give you an idea of how old those cells are and
Okay.
about when they're going to be ready to hatch out.
Okay. Right.
I don't
Because
know.
at this point, you don't know. You didn't see them
Aren't
build the
they
cup.
completely capping them at around 11 days? Isn't it around 11 days or so?
6 days are capped.
6 days
6
are
days are
capped.
capped. Okay. And it's 16 days
They
till
hatch.
merging, right?
15,
So-
16 days are
Yeah.
Yeah,
capped.
they hatch on.
I'd be back out there first thing tomorrow.
Yeah,
Well,
I would too,
so-
because they emerge at day 15, 16,
Right.
depending upon the weather and humidity.
So I can't go tomorrow, but I'm definitely going Sunday. So I'm too busy tomorrow. I have something else I have to do, but I can't go
You're
tomorrow.
never too
Definitely
busy.
on
Beekeeping.
You're never too
I
busy to
know, I
beekeep.
know. But listen, but there's one thing that takes precedence over the bees, and that's my wife. So, so I have to do this thing for my wife, so I cannot go tomorrow. But
You might just have to tell her to she's going to have to cool her jets and wait.
but I'm definitely going Sunday. So, but then I also, and I know that I said I wasn't doing this, but I also bought 4 packages. So, and those packages, I think Will found the 4 packages that had the most wax or comb built around the feed can that he could find, and those are the ones he handed me. So I literally, I came this close to banging those bees down and slicing the screen open to shake them down into the colonies into the boxes, because I could not get those cans out. They were like glued into those
So
packages.
here's another thought for you, in case you're still not going out there tomorrow. Those queen cells are capped. That queen that's in there currently,
Yeah,
you could probably kiss her and about half those bees goodbye.
I know,
Because they're going to be leaving in the next 24 hours.
I know. Listen, I know.
I'm surprised she hadn't left already.
I know. Like I said, I spent an hour and a half looking.
It's been cold, that's why.
She's marked, and I was looking and looking. I'm thinking,
stop worrying about looking for that queen. That's what a beginner.
Stop worrying about the queen.
She's already got to be gone.
Yeah,
I cannot find her.
She's probably going to.
That very next box right there was. I found a queen in the very next box. Like
you said, the one thing you seen eggs, so you know you got a queen.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing I was thinking myself. You know what? Don't they stop laying? They stop laying like days before they leave, right?
I don't know. All I can tell you is I would have went in there. I'd have shook the bees off, pulled that brood out that had the queen cell, put that in one box along with the other stuff.
Well, I'm going to do that on Sunday. Yeah, I'm going to do that on Sunday.
Well, you should have done that today.
Well,
yeah, you should. Yep.
Yeah. But
Or
I mean, I did do it
tomorrow morning.
I did do it. I did move the queen. Like I said, I did move the queen on the next colony. I did move her over to one of the empty boxes. I said I have 4 packages down there now. So I went down there today to take like the cages out and stuff like that and just check on them. They're doing okay. They've taken about half a gallon.
You're gonna have about what, 10 hives down there now?
I have 10 now. So,
so you figure if you can get 4 splits out of this big hive, you'll have 14.
When I do the splits, I'm going to have, I think, 16. So, yeah.
Now, Tom says you got to put a swarm trap out there tonight.
Exactly.
Well,
now,
and
I went out there in the middle of the night last night and pulled the darn cork out of my nuke there so they would have, access to the air today.
Right.
Yeah,
you got to be out there all hours of the night,
Yeah.
I put a swarm trap in my apiary the other day because I'm not going to do splits until, after the 27th of April.
Well, so I have 2 easy nukes that I've already done up for swarm traps, right? That I'm going to put down there. So I have them all ready to go. I just haven't taken them down yet.
I'd be taking them down there first thing in the morning.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to do that. And then
splitting that hive down.
What time you have to be with your wife? In the afternoon?
All day.
Take her with you.
Take
her on a field trip.
We're supposed to take it because it's been so cold here, right? She's like, let's go do something. So I'm like, okay. So
you're going to go do something. You're going to split bees down. You need to get your wife interested in working in the apiary.
You guys have way different wives than I do, I guess. But yeah, so I'm definitely going Sunday. I'm definitely going first thing Sunday, so for sure. But and I mean, it's gonna be what it is. I mean, at this point, I've got 10 colonies, and even if she's still in there and she splits on me or whatever, well, then it's just gonna, like you said, it's gonna end up being a couple of splits. So by July, I'm gonna be probably losing 20 pounds a visit, and sweat and everything, working all those colonies. Because my yard is like right out in open sun. There's no trees around or anything else. So
that's what you want. You got
right, of course, right. It definitely kept the beetles and stuff down When I had the bees where I live, they were in a lot of shade, and I had tons of beetles all the time. So, yeah, probably. So I'm definitely worried about it. Like, so the packages seem to be doing fine. They're like, I took them, opened them up today. They're building comb really well. There's probably 3 or 4 frames in there that they've built a decent amount of comb on. I saw eggs and everything else. So it was more about, just getting in there and removing the queen cages and just, looking to see if I saw eggs. So, so the packages are doing okay. And then the other 2 colonies that I have down there, one of them was an actual split from last year, and its population is low, but it's still doing okay. And there was nice brood pattern in there as well. And then I've got my one remaining nuke from my favorite bee supplier that is located between my yard and Charlie's yard.
The one that has the meanest bees in town.
Those I had to walk halfway from my yard up to the main road in order to get them to leave me alone long enough for today for me to run back to my truck and jump in and then get out of my suit inside my truck because they were just all over me constantly. So that queen is definitely getting squished here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you got the queen cells right there, a squisher.
Yeah,
and put
I'm more or less done
that thing right in there.
So
hey, Will.
Hey, Will.
Hey, guys.
So I don't know.
Putting 30 of them in one of those.
Man, I could not get those cans out of those packages, man. They were glued in there.
Imagine putting 32 of them in and having to pry every one of them cans out.
Yeah, they were rough.
I'd have been cutting screens.
Yeah, I was just about ready
about
to, but I was able to get them out of there. So
Where'd you get them at, Will?
A guy, Heavenly Honey, Rob House.
yeah,
He went down and got 800 packages. He's a guy I'm going to make a run with next week.
yeah, and I mean, I got most of him as well. I got, like you said, I got a couple from somewhere else, but yeah, I got, his bees are pretty. I mean, they're pretty gentle. I don't really have too many issues with them. But
Hey, can you get me 4 packages of bees? I don't need queens. I just need the bees for mating nukes.
Yeah, let me send him a message. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll probably bring him back next week.
That's fine. You can
You want me to
the
bring him
store
down?
with you.
Because
Yeah,
okay,
bring him to the store with me. I'll pay you when you get there with them. But
yeah,
I
because
don't need queens
I'm
in them.
gonna. Yep.
Hey, Lisa.
You just want packages that are queenless.
Yep, I need them for the
Yeah, I'll shoot
for
him a
mating
message.
nukes. Yeah.
Yep. I can do it.
But yeah, so I am pretty happy that my surviving colonies seem to be doing pretty well. Obviously that one is doing exceptionally well, and so I mean it could be worse. I could have lost more, but and at this point, like I said, I have 10. I'm fairly certain I'm going to probably have 15 or 16 by the time I get to the end of the the nectar flow. So, but I've been feeding the packages Apis, and I had given the surviving colonies some rocket fuel infused pollen patties back in March. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but definitely happy I didn't lose.
That's the
more than I
volcano
did.
hive. You've been doing all this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's Apis does it wonders.
Yep. Yeah. So I was pretty
You
happy.
probably have
Hey
a
Scott,
very
you were
good-
talking earlier about drones. I've got hives in Newbury Township, and I got drones everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a lot of drones too. I'm just not sure where they're at on the maturity, scale. So I was seeing quite a few drones in the colonies, but like I said, I'm just not sure if, they're where they need to be for when those queens come out. So I'm just a little worried. It just seems to me that it's still just a little too early.
I don't know. Mark said he grabbed at 600.
Yeah.
Was it last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
acceptance rate wasn't quite as high the way I understood it.
The first one is not usually not, but every successive one after that gets better. So,
Well, I mean, for right now, like you say, we all know we here in the East Coast, we had not have had the correct kind of weather for
Well, right.
mating or drones or anything else.
Yeah.
Now, I got drone frames in my hives, and they're all loaded up with drones, either capped or one of them in there wasn't capped. So I'm thinking that they've hatched out one batch and they're loading up again.
yeah, I got drones everywhere right now. So,
Well, and like, so I had put those some feeder shims in early March and slipped some fondant in on my 4 colonies. And then when I came back at maybe around the 25th of March or whatever and popped them up, that's what I had in that space, all of that. And that was all drone comb, and it was all full of drones.
And why did you have that space there like that? That's on top of an inner cover.
That was between the inner cover and the top deep, and I had fondant in there.
You had an inner cover between a top and a bottom deep?
I had a feeder shim on there.
Oh, a feeder shim.
Yeah, I had a feeder shim on there, and then the inner cover. So that space in there, they had come up, they'd eaten all the fondant, and then they built a ton of drone comb in there. And of course, when I had lifted it up, I didn't even see it right away. And then when I tried to put it back down, and I was like, why isn't this inner cover going down or whatever? I look it up, and it was like all of this like drone, all of this like comb they had built underneath there or whatever. So I had to scrape all that off. Now I always carried some extra equipment with me, so I just basically swapped out the inner covers then. But like I said, I mean, I see some decent amount of drone. I see drone comb everywhere you're supposed to see it. Like at the bottom of frames and things like that or whatever. And it's all capped and stuff. And I see quite a few drones running around in the colony. But like I said, I'm just a little worried that it's a little too early for them to really be ready to start, mating with queens. So
I don't know. I mean, it's been cold, but on the other hand, I mean, the bees know.
Right. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So, I mean, just you just, have to go with it. It's all I know.
Right.
Biggest thing you need to do is get down there.
Yeah, I'm definitely going back on Sunday.
You gotta get down there. Hopefully they won't swarm by then.
I hope not too. And like I said,
knock them back and that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens from it, but I don't know.
I got 4 hives out there. I demaried more quicker than the other ones sitting out there behind me right there.
I say I want to do some demaries. I just don't feel like I just don't feel like I can get there often enough to stay on top of, because I would do like what you do. I would do the rolling demary, right? And I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to get there enough to be able to, move that brood.
Well, then do one like Bill does there, where you, like he says, take an empty box, put comb in there if you got the comb.
Right.
Put her in there, and let's say 2 frames of brood and food and some food and her on a comb. Put that on the bottom board. Put the queen excluder on. Put, I would say, in your situation, that one box there, at least a couple honey supers, and then put the other 2 brood boxes up on top, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that
unless you take one of them and you split it out to those other hives and either make splits with it with those queen cells that are in there now and get it down to where you have 1 deep on top and you're cycling, doing it that way about every 3 weeks.
I am probably more likely to do splits on it than a demary, like I said, just because I'm a little worried about management. But
yeah, but you got, like you say, you need to fill some holes too because you lost a couple.
Yes, right. So, and then
you got a package in there and you got cat brood. hey, put that darn cat brood. If you got an extra frame that you need to get rid of, put it in that package and let them, cover it up and let it
Right.
hatch out, and it'll boost that package up right quick.
Right.
If you got drawn comb.
So right now I've got about 23 deeps of fully drawn, like that are in like reserve. So I definitely have plenty of drawn comb that I can give to my different colonies that, can use it. So, and I was actually thinking about throwing some of it in the packages to kind of boost them, just to give the queen, more, she can just start laying right away.
It's kind of like equalizing out and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I was thinking about doing that as well.
And I like Grammy here. Now she's got a horizontal, and I presume, I'm not sure whether like double deeps of them kind or not. I think they're like Ricky's.
Mm-hmm.
I would be pulling out brood out of that stuff, Lisa. And
Yeah, I would be too.
If they're like a zip tie double deep, I've seen them like that. I'd be pulling them frames apart and putting them in other hives, and then use that horizontal as more of a resource hive than anything else, and set it back in population and everything.
So one of the things I was able to do is I was able to prep my the area that I have where my yard is. I was able to prep the area to accept 25 colonies. So so right now, like I said, I'm at 10. So I can easily, and I have all of the equipment in reserve and everything. So it's all completely prepped and ready. All I need to do is take stands down and set the equipment up and stuff like that. And then I think that yard is going to basically max out at about 25. I don't think I want any more there. But I was able
eyes.
Well, but I mean, like I said, I was able to get the area prepped and everything over, here and there, like during some of the warmer days that we've had. But so it is completely ready. So like I said, I have the equipment completely ready. I just ran up to Martin's and grabbed I just grabbed 6 more bottom boards. So, and I brought them back and painted them up and everything. So they're completely ready to go now too. So, so I'm completely ready to start, to kind of, expand really quickly. I'm just not sure if I want to split some of those colonies, 4 ways, just because I'm worried about, I realize I have the entire season for them to build up, but I'm just a little worried about them not building up, or, I'm having problems with queens and stuff like that or whatever. Because last year I had this one colony where it just didn't, no matter what I did, I just could not get them. I could not get a queen in that colony to really do anything. And they kept superseding it. And, every queen they had just kept doing it. And the next thing you know, that
there was a queen in there.
That by September, that queen was walking around on, there was like maybe a handful of bees in there, and that queen was walking around on comb doing nothing, and then
that's where you pinch her and you combine them with somebody else in the fall and hang it up for the year.
Yeah. Like by the time I was like ready to just kind of give up on that colony, there weren't even enough bees to combine it. I just shook them out and was done. I closed that box up and I just let it sit there for the winter. So, but
I would have put them on top of another hive or put them in another hive.
There was literally like only like a frame of bees in there, Bill. So
it's a frame more bees.
I got a 10 frame out there right now, single medium, and I had like 2 or 3 frames of breeze over here and 2 or 3 frames of bees here, and another nuke that wasn't worth a darn. And I just took, and I looked, I couldn't find any queens, and I can see. I just went and put them all together. See, there you are. And now they seem to be puttering along. I got queens coming in and stuff like that. I might have some cells I can use too. And let it go at that.
Yeah.
You
Charlie,
gotta
be full throttle right now.
Yeah, I got everything demaried up, and they're bringing in some nectar. They're bringing in more nectar than what I thought they were. They were bringing in more nectar than what I thought they were.
Right.
Well, I've got a couple holes there that I don't know. The bees just, the queens just weren't much. But I will have to say, like these ones across that way, out towards that yellow one, they were 3 weeks behind. And the ones over here, there were 4 demeries. I demeried about 2 weeks ago, and they were busting like volcanoes. And then I kind of hit me last night. I said, you know what? I pulled my winter coverings off of these ones that are exposed to wind. Those other ones were sort of behind the barn. So they had a wind block, and they didn't have as much coldness as the other ones did. And I think that had a big took in account. That's why they were not brooding up like I thought they should have been, and that kind of stuff. So now they seem to be brooding up. Everybody's been demery that I can demery. I did one video about adding foundation with 21st Bee Michael's frames along with my acorn. I'm running out of brood frames is what it amounts to. And I needed to get them to draw and make more brood frames for me. And everybody's got a honey super on to store any honey. They were out there flying hard and strong today because it was 70 degrees. I got a nuke out there that I put out there 3 days ago. I need to turn that into 10 frame, get it in as a honey production hive. And then I got 4 more nukes left that I need to get in and just look and see what's going on. And I might take a couple of them and split them down to where to repopulate my nuke population that it's been depleted. And but I got to see whether I got a bunch of queen cells in there or what's going on. Luckily, things have not, it's like it always says, it's bad weather, and here comes the nicest weather ever was. Finally, you're able to get in there, and boy, they're wanting to hit the trees.
Yep. And
So
now I've got at least 2 honey supers on all of mine that are in honey production. Some have 3.
I got those real strong ones. I got 3 honey supers on them right now to give them plenty of room. And then the rest of them, I got at least 1. And they're, so.
All my double deeps have 2 honey supers on them.
Yep.
And I'm going to get into my singles hopefully tomorrow. The last I was in them, they were only about 4. They only had 2 or 3 frames of brood, but
yeah, I'll be in bees this weekend. Quick.
Yeah, see, I put honey supers. I put 1 honey super on all 4 of my surviving colonies, and they didn't bother with them. So they weren't even. There was like,
See, that's the nice thing about the demery. When you put that top brood box up on top, it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
And it sucks the bees out of that bottom brood box into that honey super, into that other box. And now you got bees the whole length of the hive.
Right.
And it seems to get them to put the nectar in there. I mean, you can have 9 frames in there, and you don't never have to move the outer frames to the center to get them to fill. Mm-hmm. They fill it across the board.
Yeah.
And then I know Darren's on here tonight. He asked me a question about why don't I just keep the brood in the bottom and it'll hatch out and it'll give the queen room. And that was a young guy. What was his name? Rawl or something like that. Up in Canada. Now he works at one of the bee labs here in the United States. And he talked about counting all the cells, and she's going to lay so many, and you got 50,000 cells in here. And then you take 10% of the cells for your honey and 10% for your pollen. And it should, in the way the math all works out, it should be a revolving door, and she'll have plenty of places to lay. And guess what? Bees don't seem to understand math very well, because it never worked for me, and it just doesn't work. And that's why, everybody talks about, swarm prevention. It's all about giving that queen a place to lay eggs. If she runs out of a place to lay eggs, the hive is going to make the decision to take a hike.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned, that,
there's definitely been some times when I was thinking about putting a 3rd deep on, just the queen had room to lay. So, because, sometimes it seems like 2 deeps just isn't enough.
What's that
Yeah.
as far as brood chamber?
Yeah, for it just depends. It depends on the colony. Sometimes, certainly most of the time it is, but some colonies are just so big and so, the queen is just so prolific about everything that it just seems like sometimes 2 deeps.
Yeah, but the thing I've learned through experience, you double deeps. What happens? She lays everything up in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your commercial guys only use 1 deep, and there's a reason behind that.
Yeah.
Second deep, what she do? She chimleys. She comes up 6 frames dead center.
Mm-hmm.
She lays it all up in brood. What do they do in the top box? Honey on this side, honey on that side. 6 frames of brood, capped, uncapped, and then it all emerges. What she do? They backfill it with nectar.
Yep.
And all that. And there's one thing I got. One of these commercial guys was at a bee club years ago. Well, we don't use that. We don't give them that much space. Never explain why, but in a single brood chamber management situation, you're manipulating the hive to where she lays everything up in the bottom box.
Mm-hmm.
They have to put the honey up in the upstairs in the
Right.
hive.
Yep.
And then with the Demery, when you put that extra brood upstairs, she's never running out of room to lay. You force the bees to put the honey upstairs, and all the nurse bees go up and cover the brood up top. And now you've got this super strong hive that's producing even more foragers, which will increase your honey production 50 to 60%. And it just works,
Yeah.
And I look at it, people say, well, it's a lot of work. I said, yeah, for 4 months for me.
I think with the Demery like that, I would definitely need a hive lifter because I'm a short guy, and that hive would be towering over me. So, but for sure,
Yeah. And then Tom, Melissa, you're right. As far as the commercial guys using these things for a lot of different reasons, they do. But I still can't figure out how they get them to not swarm unless they swarm and they don't worry about it because of the numbers of beehives they got to begin with.
yeah. I always wonder about people who do the single brood single deep. I always wonder, how do you keep those bees from swarming? Because I have trouble doing it with doubles. So.
Well, if you look at Ian, what's he do? The first thing in the springtime, he pulls power out of that box, by putting in. Remember, you ever watch him? He lets the bees go up into the second deep, and then they shake it all down, and they put the queen excluder in,
Right.
and then the nurse bees come up, and what does he do? He pulls that box off, and that's a split. So he pulls a split off, and then he puts his honey supers on.
Mm-hmm.
But now you got to look at his environment. When you got 24,000 acres of canola up there,
Right.
and it's coming in like a freight train, they don't have no time but think about making honey. So he puts all honey boxes on, and they're pulling the honey in, and it's also his season. It's his season is compressed.
It's really
not the same as ours. We're different.
Right.
We have a long, they're worried about that, like he was talking about when he was doing the mite treatments, and he was talking about, well, it's setting his brood production back. That is critical for him because it's that much of a window for his population. It's like Brad said, those bees have got to be like a bunch of racehorses out the gate and hit the honey, plants out there and bring it in, because not so many weeks later, it's going to snow again. It's back into the barn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have a much longer window.
Right. Well, and then last year was like kind of crazy long, right? Because they were still bringing stuff in August and stuff, right? So I was like, where is this coming from?
Well, that's what I say. This year, all right, we're at the 15th of April. We're just getting started in nectar.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, we're going to be late July before it ever stops.
Yeah.
It's going to be closer to more like August.
Yeah.
Normally by the 4th of July in past years, we're done.
Right.
Not next year, not last year. We were going through to July,
Mhm.
and I say we're definitely going to go through July this year. If it less we don't get any rain and stuff dries up.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
Well, from what I saw today in my survivor colonies, I was, wondering whether or not I was going to have to feed them coming out of winter, but from what I saw today, no, they've brought in. I mean, each colony has at least 3 full deeps of nectar, and I think 2 of those deeps were completely capped. So I think they'll be good as far as that goes. And
And I like Tiny Creek, that's Andrew. He's using all deep boxes. Well, see, that's what I do. I use all medium boxes. If you got a hive lifter like Ian's got, yeah, you can use deep boxes. That's what all the commercial guys do.
Right.
One size box, one size frame, simplicity, and it also makes everything. You can work your bees. You can work a lot of bees easier that way because everything is interchangeable. Well, I can't handle deep boxes. And even though I got a hive lifter, I still like my medium boxes. And yeah, but it's the same thing, simplicity.
Mhm.
So Andrew's he's still using his back. Well, you got to use your brain power and get yourself a hive lifter. But that's why I like my mediums, because I can switch things around. I don't have to worry about it. And that's another thing I got thinking about, like Bill's, the original Demery method, where you're replacing the box in the bottom and bringing everything upstairs. And I'm like, that works better, I think, for deeps.
Mm-hmm.
And with mine, I think the rolling Demery works better with mediums.
Yep.
It's, if I did it like Bill does it, I'd have to have 2 medium boxes to put on the bottom, and then put, let's say, 2 medium supers, and then put my 2 medium boxes up on top, and do it that way, where I'm just rolling frames around. It's a little bit more of a hassle, but that's where my hive lifter comes in, which makes it easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the dance floor better.
Well, last night, Tom and Melissa were talking a little bit about, having out yards, and how that makes you need to really prepare for what you're taking with you, and to have a really good idea of what's happening in your yard. And this is my second season having an out yard, and thankfully last year I only needed to make one kind of emergency run back home for more equipment. And this year I'm going to actually put a small storage shed at my yard and keep some equipment in there, so that in case I need something, that I'll know that I can have it stocked and I'll have it in there. But still thinking about having to think about what was going on there the last time I was there, and do I really feel like there's even a possibility that I'm going to need this thing or that thing or whatever?
I don't know. I had out yards, or a out yard one time, until the fellow that owned the property passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But I find out yards are being a pain. I'm glad I have it right here at the house.
Right.
Because you get over to the out yard, and first thing you got to do is you got to load your truck up with what you think you might need.
Right.
And, you lost it 15, 20 minutes right there loading your truck up. Then you drive over there. Well, there goes another 20 minutes or so. Then you're at the yard and you go through your thing. And, well, you didn't need all that equipment this time. And you got to unload the truck, unless you can leave it on your truck, which would be great. Or you get over there after loading everything. Well, shoot, I forgot to bring this, or I need this. I didn't even think that they would be at this point, or whatever. And stuff like that. And now, I mean, I go out here the last week or so. There were several truckloads. I mean, I could have packed it in, but I didn't. I know I can just run around the house and grab stuff and come back with the truck. And I brought out what I thought I needed the first time, and I kind of knew I might need some honey supers to add. Wasn't sure, but I wasn't going to put it on the truck unless I needed them. And I had to run back and grab about 5 or 6 honey supers and put them on these last 4 heavy duty MREs. And it was like the one video I put out with the maintenance of the Demery. All right. Once I got into the other hives that were even stronger than that one, that's when I said, okay, I need to run back to the house, grab supers, and everybody got at least 1 extra super, honey super, if not 2 on a couple of them. So I got, I think 2 of them out there. It's got 6 or 3 honey supers a piece. And then the other 2, the one I did the video on, got a second honey super put on and that kind of stuff. So, it was more, the issue was not, I didn't forget. It was the issue was I didn't have truck space.
Yeah.
Because I had boxes of frames and, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff, brood comb and whatever. And then I just ran back and got more, like say queen excluders or honey supers and stuff like that. I had to make a couple of trips.
Well, and that's what I was doing last year. I mean, like I was just taking my car, and I was filling it. I was having to constantly filling it up. I was having stuff on the front, on the passenger seat, and the back seat, and the trunk, and everything else. And then sometimes I was taking my wife's car, which had a slightly bigger trunk and stuff. And so then finally, I said to my wife, like in like December or January, I said, I need a truck. I was like, I cannot do this again. So, I started looking for a truck, and thankfully I was able to find one. So I bought an F-150 in the end of January. And it's been hugely different having a truck, being able to just load all that stuff up. But you're right. I am doing that where I'm putting stuff on the truck, and it is taking me 20, 30 minutes to load the truck up. And then some stuff I'm not needing, I get down there, okay, I didn't need this. So I am bringing it back and, and walking it back and, and putting it away and stuff like that.
Well, like here lately, I took some stuff out there. I thought about doing the noose. Well, I'm going to do some splits. So I took out, bottom boards and lids and inner covers and boxes and I got it out there, and I don't like things sitting out in the weather. And I said, well, the weather's going to be pretty good. Guess what? It's all going to sit in a pile there at the yard. I know it's not going to get stolen as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And it's there. All I got to do is walk over there and grab it and go.
Right. Yeah.
You might try to put a little cabinet down there to kind of put some stuff in there.
Well, yeah, that's what I actually bought one of those. So I bought one of those kind of like, I don't know. It's like
Rubbermaid jobs.
It's similar. Yeah. It's not Rubbermaid, but it's a similar one to those. And I think it's called like Suncast or something like that. Or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I bought one of those. I am going to put that down there in the corner. The only thing I'm a little worried about is there's anyway, I'll go into that. But anyway, I am going to put it in the corner. I am going to fill it up. I'm going to put some equipment in there, but I'm still going to probably have to, bring equipment with me. But the truck having the truck now is definitely going to make it a little bit easier and some stuff I can leave in the truck. And just always have it back there. Of course, I've got like a Pro Nuke in there now and stuff. That was something I didn't have in my car. And I always thought to myself, I should probably put a Pro Nuke in the trunk, but I really didn't have the room for it. So, but now I can just throw a Pro Nuke back there and just leave it back there in case I need it for that. And like I said, I've been carrying some inner covers around with me, an outer cover, and stuff like that. So I'm going to put it into a cabinet down there. So that I have it, but I'm still going to probably have to, really stay on top of thinking about what I saw there. Sometimes I don't always do a video when I'm there, but, when I do, I sometimes literally go back through that footage and look at it just to see, to to refresh my memory of like what I was seeing and what I was doing down there or whatever, so that I can determine, maybe it would be a good idea to bring this piece of equipment or that piece of equipment. So it definitely adds a different dynamic to beekeeping that I was not accustomed to when I used to have my bees right here. And, and when I had my bees right here, I even thought to myself today, the situation that I ran into with this volcano hive would never have happened if that hive was here at my house, where I could have kept a closer eye on it. So
Yeah.
I snap pictures. I have like one of my outyards has 3 hive stands on it, and I snap pictures of that every time before I leave, because I can see what's closed off, what's dead. I can see my doubles. I can see, and I try to do that of each one of my yards, just snap a quick couple pictures of things just so I can refer back to it. And I'm beginning to be an expert at what I pack and carry in my pickup under my tonneau cover. And I have a small single axle landscape trailer, which actually holds boxes and stuff really nice. And I think I'm going to graduate to a enclosed trailer, that I can just keep stocked, because all I do is load my truck, unload my truck into my basement, out of my basement, just back and forth continuously. So I'm kind of trying to figure that out too. And my pickup sets high, so it's a real pain to climb in and out.
No, I actually saw it, and I thought to myself, it's hard enough for me to get up in the one that I just bought. I don't know. I can't imagine getting up into your Ram.
Well,
that thing
I have a little cheater step that pushes out.
F-150.
Yeah, I have a little cheater step that pushes out the back, or else my fat ass would never get in and out of the back of that.
Because
truck.
like for my F-150, I'm literally turning around and I'm like pushing myself up onto the tailgate like backwards, and then I'm like spinning my feet around.
Yeah, all you do is you leave tailgate shut and climb up on the hitch and swing your leg over the tailgate.
Right.
But, or you get one of them fancy little steps, you go into the hitch,
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, Will, in your situation down the road, an enclosed, like Bill's got an enclosed trailer, a nice one you can walk in.
Yep. A car hauler, 22 feet, 8 feet wide. You know what I mean?
So you're not talking about like one like Robert brought the bees back in, like something bigger.
That's what I need to graduate to, something of that size, because that way I can store a fair amount of stuff. So when I show up at a bee yard, I got triangle scapes, I got, honey supers, I got.
Right. And you'll just keep it all in there and stuff, and then you'll just hook up to it whenever you need to and pull it out. And,
Yep.
The biggest thing is, can you have room to get it turned around and maneuvered when you get there?
Yeah, I have a couple bee yards that it might live in occasionally. My big flat deck trailer sitting out on one of my bee. I built a couple bee yards that are big, like a gravel base, and my trailer, my brush hogs sitting out there on it. You know what I mean? I have a bunch of skids staged. I have a bunch of stands staged there. So just trying to fit into it.
Right.
Did you guys see that video? It's out on the YouTube about somebody poisoning that guy's bees. There were a bunch of new.
It was down in Stafford, Virginia.
Did not see that.
Stafford. Where is that? I should know. I know where.
Down near Fredericksburg.
Quantico.
Fredericksburg.
Near Fredericksburg.
It's around Fredericksburg, Quantico area.
Yeah. And it was intentionally done.
Somebody got the guy's hives, actually.
Yeah, they stole some hives, and then they poisoned the rest of them.
Wow.
Sheriff's office is investigating.
What's that going to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yep.
Sounds like there ought to be a Paul Harvey to that. There ought to be more to that story.
Well, the thing of it is, I watched the video, and it ain't next to like a housing development or anything like that. It's a great big pasture field. These things were on pallets in a pasture field.
Yep.
And you had the road on the side of the pasture field with a gate to go in. But he was saying somebody locked the gate on him, or somebody.
Somebody changed. He had a lock on it, and they put a different lock on it.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Karen around there trying to,
60 colonies. Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a feud.
I guess.
Boy, that would hurt. 60 colonies. Whew.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of honey.
Yeah, it is. That's a lot of honey.
That's 2 tons, or that's a ton of honey.
Yeah, it is.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting on the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture to approve my limited food establishment license so that I can start selling honey this year. And part of me feels like it's a little bit like putting the cart before the horse, right? Because I don't have any honey to sell. But you know, if I end up having honey, then I'm gonna need the license to do it. So
Because you can sell it yourself, you just can't sell it wholesale, like, you know what I mean?
I can't.
Well, he can wholesale it. I can buy
I can
it.
only sell it from the location that it's produced in, and since mine's in an outyard, I could only sell it there, and I don't own that property. So, so even if I want to sell it from my house, or if I would want to go to markets and stuff like that and sell it, I need that limited food establishment license. So,
You can bring it back to your place and extract it.
yes.
So it's processed at your place.
Right.
That's where, and you can sell it from your place.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, but I had seen this thing from Penn State a little bit ago, and it had a bunch of slides. I actually had made some screenshots of it. And it had some of the surrounding states. It looks like Maryland doesn't have any kind of restrictions as long as you don't sell more than $50,000 worth of honey.
Yeah.
Virginia, you can sell up to 250 gallons of
or
honey.
2,500 pounds.
There you go. You know, so like it seems like all the surrounding states from Pennsylvania are just kind of like, you know, do it. Pennsylvania is like regulation.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
you got
yeah.
to pay so much a hive and all that other stuff for you to support your inspectors and everything else.
It's crazy. So, so I'm
And then
hoping.
and then if they inspect your kitchen and about a cat or a dog there and whatever, and we don't have any of that.
Well, right. So I don't have an animal and stuff like that. And so it was really interesting. Some of the things I found out, like if you have an animal, if you have an animal that's ever been in your house or would ever be in your house, it's like absolutely no circumstance where they'll ever approve you. And the other interesting thing too, is if your kitchen cabinets are painted, they will never approve you. Now mine aren't, right? And I don't have an animal, so it doesn't matter. But and then of course you got to go through a bunch of other stuff as well. But it was just really interesting, some of the stuff that and of course I had to like give them all this detailed information about who my sewer company is, who my water company is, and stuff like that. And I realized that some of that stuff is more relevant to more of the cottage products and stuff like that, because like if they're doing, like if you're using the water to make like, bread or something like that, where with honey, you're not doing any of that stuff, but you still had to fill it out anyway. You still had to provide them with all this information. And then,
well, there was another one, a group in Pennsylvania that the guy was doing flavored honey, and he had to send his honey and get it tested.
wow.
Yep.
So the moisture content was whatever.
Gotcha.
And now, wait a minute. He says, I'm doing creamed honey and I'm putting in dehydrated this and dehydrated that in there. So the moisture content, they talked to the bunch down in the Carolinas, which was the cheapest one around. And he got it tested like they wanted. And the woman come out, which I told him, I said, they have no clue of what they're talking about from the health department. Oh, she was all excited because it was 3-point-something% moisture content. Well, yeah, lady, when you got dehydrated powder that's, let's say, cherry flavored or lemon flavored powder, and you got this, it's not going to have any moisture in it.
Right.
And, and they don't know anything about that because they're used to dealing with the food industry in general.
Yeah.
That's all they really know. They don't know this very small type of industry, which is honey, which they have no clue about.
Yeah.
See, in Virginia, to do flavored honeys, or quote unquote infused honey is what they call it, or adulterated honey, you don't send them the honey. You have to send them your recipe, and then they test it. They make the recipe. So they'll take a pound of honey and mix whatever powder your recipe calls for, mix it in, and then they test the moisture content of the recipe that they've made.
Well, the problem of it is the honey could be over 18% wherever they get their honey from.
Well, like, so Bill, one of the things that I've been seeing that's like trending, I don't know how long it'll trend, but the thing I'm seeing trending right now is vanilla honey, right?
Yeah.
And all of the recipes that I see for vanilla honey are literally just adding, like scraping out a vanilla bean, scraping the seeds out, or whatever, and putting.
But you're adding moisture.
Well, but that's what I'm wondering. Like, are you adding moisture? Because
Yes.
like, there's
You
like,
are,
there's
because
no
those
liquid to it though.
inside of those beans, the vanilla seeds, they have moisture in
Gotcha.
it. What Virginia's testing for is if you increase the moisture content, you're increasing the chances that honey is going to ferment.
Of course.
That's
right.
what they're testing for.
Yeah, right. Well, I would think that, like personally, like if I were going to make that, I would probably throw it on a refractometer after it was made and see what the moisture is, right?
But if you use a powdered vanilla,
right,
or dehydrated vanilla,
yeah,
then there you go. You don't have to worry about it.
Right. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Talk to Carl. He'll tell you all about it. He knows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't plan on doing any of that. I'd plan on just selling straight honey. So, I'm not going to worry about any of it.
But anyway, yeah,
And I mean, and I took a little bit of honey from my hives last year just for me. And I think I checked the moisture content on it. It was like 16. So,
and that's, you don't want anything less than that either.
yeah.
So where are you at with your stuff, Will? Or you got everything? I mean, I know you're recouping and regrowing and
I've got my package bees. I went through them today and made sure the queens were all released. I think I had 2 that I had to release. The majority of them, I had put like 4 frames of drawn comb in and dropped my packages on top of them in 10 frames. So the majority of my packages had at least eggs, you know what I mean, in the drawn comb.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got a big head start there with that drawn comb.
Yeah.
Yep. So I did that. I checked them today. I have most of my dead outs all cleaned up and ready to rock. Once I'm kind of keeping my packages real close where I have them right at my neighbor's place. He's got a couple acres where I can lay these things out. It works really good. And I'm going to put thin syrup on them tomorrow, to kind of keep stimulating them, drawing, jumping, hopefully making a bunch of brood. And I need to run around. I'm hoping to run around tomorrow too, to all my what's left of my singles. And I'm probably going to, they were 3-4 frames of brood of actually bees. I shouldn't say brood. The last I was in them about a week, 10 days ago, they were like, 4 or 5 frames of bees. So I want to look at them, see how they're looking. I want to put a second deep on top of them with drawn comb on them as well, to kind of, and I'll pull a couple frames up to get those singles that made it through last year turned into doubles. And then Sunday, I need to go around and check the hives that I demaried, check for queen cells up top. And Charlie, we were texting a little bit. I guess I'm going to go down through the bottom too and see what's going on down there, just to make sure. But I
had, like I say, that last video, I was a week late or more on those inspections, maintenance inspections. And then I got to look back at my notes. I'd see, I think I demaried everybody. Yes, I demaried everybody. It'll be 7 days this coming Sunday. So
okay, well, that's where I'm at. Sunday and Monday last week is when I demaried. So I'm going to go through them hopefully all on Sunday. That puts them at 7 days looking for queen cells. And I'm going to take the time and look in the bottom as well, just to see what's going on down there. I don't know that there'll be a bunch of brood to roll upstairs, but I at least want to go through at the 7 day mark and see what's going on for queen cells in the top boxes. So, but yeah, no, I'm putting supers on because, you know, they're bringing in nectar and pollen like crazy right now. So, I mean, it's like full throttle right now is what I'm seeing.
I've got supers on everything.
Yep.
Like I said, I put supers on, but they didn't touch them. They're just sticking nectar and stuff in top.
I want to have space. You know, that's part of the reason I'm doing it, is to make sure they got plenty of space. So, but yeah, so that's going to be my tomorrow and Sunday, and then I think Wednesday morning is when I'm getting with Rob, and we're headed down to do a Georgia run for bees, and then, you know, get loaded Thursday all night. Thursday night, get back Friday morning, hand them out, and then jump in the truck and come down to see you guys for Saturday. So
yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be a whirlwind.
I'll have to find. We might be down there at the Georgia at the same time. I don't know.
Oh, really?
We ain't got a call yet, so I don't know.
I thought you were. Yeah, I was expecting.
I was hoping for like now.
Yeah.
To be down there and back by Tuesday or something like that.
Yep.
I don't know. I asked him about it last week, and he said, I'm not calling until they call. He's got nukes coming in Sunday and queens.
Yeah, if I see you guys Friday night next week, my eyes might be crossed because I'll probably be 36 hours straight or something till then.
And Robert sends out those emails when he always says, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then between this time and this time, I'm going to sleep, right? Like, he literally puts that in there. Like, I'm going to sleep.
Like, don't call me, text me. Like, the whole time you're with him, his phone's just blowing up. Like, I was out there helping him hand out bees, and it was just, you know, blowing. It was, you know, it was kind of crazy. So
yeah. I want to answer DC. Yeah, DC, I don't. Do I equalize them out before I demery? No, I don't. I just go through them and just, you know, usually, let me put it this way. Like the first 4 that I demeried, they were they were like massive hives. Then I went through just looking at them on the ones, like say hives 1 through 8 or 9. They weren't ready yet. And I just did them last week because they finally caught up to the rest because of the weather, I'm sure. And I just demeried them, and they're all kind of about the same. All the queens are all the same age. And I've been trying to plug holes up in my honey production line where I'm making I want 16 honey production hives to do some work for me. Hey, Rick, you back to Kentucky? You said you were moving back from Florida. You got all 2,000 hives back? So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
My rule of thumb from you, Charlie, is 80% full of bees, and, you know, at least like six to 8 frames of brood. And if I get in them and that's where they're at, they're getting demeried. If I get in them and they're not that, then I'm just putting a queen excluder on them and putting some supers on them for right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a hive there that just doesn't have the population, that's where I just leave them at 2 mediums for me as a brood chamber, or let's say 1 deep, and put a queen excluder on her and put the honey supers on top and let it go at that.
Yep.
Until they get the building, you know.
Yep. Until they grow up, and then we'll see where we're at when they grow up, if I want to demery them at that point.
All right.
Or not.
That's good, Rick. See you back in Kentucky and all. But that's where you have to kind of understand how to manage that. You have to make that decision. Do we have enough bee power to do a demery, or do we just want to put honey supers on?
Yep.
And
it's
then
just
I was
black
like,
and white.
you know, it's not black and white.
Full. Yep. Well,
and then another thing, like that last video where I was talking about the frames. I'm like, okay, I got capped on this frame, but when you flip it over, I got a bunch of jelly on this side. That doesn't go upstairs. That's got to stay downstairs.
Yeah.
If you got and it's capped, but it's ringed with a bunch of pollen on both sides, or on the other side, it might be capped with a bunch of old larvae about as big as a slug in there. They're not going to make queen cells out of that. Well, that can go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Might take longer for them to, to hatch that brood out and all, but it kind of depends on if you got a bunch of cat brood that's 95%, you can put all that upstairs and leave that one with that big sluggy brood in there. Let them go ahead and process that over the next few days and cap it and stuff. So you kind of have to weigh the differences out on every frame when you're looking at that kind of stuff. And all.
I mean, with the Demery, it's just about space downstairs, right? It's about space
about
downstairs.
just
keep laying and laying and laying and laying. And
Yep.
laying.
Right. Here comes Darren. There he is.
Hey, Darren.
Hey, Darren.
Hey.
We got the Pennsylvania boys on tonight.
Those cabinets don't look painted, Darren. Don't worry.
Darren, where are you at?
I'm up here near Altoona State College.
Oh, you're a little cooler yet.
Yeah, well, we're looking all right. We're looking good.
I'm York County, so
Yeah, you're probably a little warmer than I am, but
yeah.
I think we were at 79 degrees today, I believe. So it turned out to be a really nice day.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any 30-degree nights in the foreseeable future at all.
No,
so
2 nights
that's
ago it
un-
was 29 degrees, and then that seems like that's going to be the last of it, and it's going to be
Yep.
all in like the 50s. So
Yeah, it was 30-some degrees last night, and I'm feeling good from here.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's going to be like in the 50s at night throughout the next week.
Yep.
70s during the day throughout the next week. So it seems like temperature-wise, night and day is kind of equalized to our favor. As
Yeah. Yep.
I'm
Well,
thinking
it's
the bees
about
are
time
going
too.
to be
That
in the
weather was
trees.
getting ridiculous. Every day was just up and down like a roller coaster. One day it was nice, and then it was cold for 3 or 4 days. Had about a 2-week period, couldn't even go into the hives at all. I think this week we had a 40-degree day. When was it? Tuesday or Wednesday, and just So it's about time.
I'm a little concerned about how dry it is. We're still pretty dry from the end of last year.
We actually are too. I can have some
We're in a severe drought.
Really? I don't think we have any drought warnings or anything, but we're dry.
Yeah,
Which is
we're in a
kind of weird.
moderate drought.
This time of year is, you're usually everything's wet. I can't even usually this time of year I can't even drive through my yard because everything's so wet. But it's
Normally
dry.
it's a mud season right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
I hope that doesn't mean that May is going to be wet.
Well, I was thinking that because our weather, everybody says, well, like we're having an odd year, but I think the past 4 or 5 years were odd. I feel like this year is back to normal. So I'm hoping the last 2 years, month of May killed me. I lost a lot of honey production during the month of May. I think two years ago in May, it actually was sleeting out. I'll never forget that year. So it wasn't kind to the bees at all. So I'm hoping this year, I hope things are kind of back to normal the way they should be for this area. And I'm hoping we have a decent year.
My concern is rain when the locust and when the poplar comes in, because that got washed out locally for me here last year, and it just hurt.
It did for us too.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah, the black locust was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I kind of wish we'd get some more rain right now, but I mean, the next week's dry for me.
I'm still trying to figure out what nectar sources my bees are foraging on, because when I had my bees here, which is northern York County, my spring honey was always super clear. But the honey I got last year and the stuff I see that's in my colonies right now in southern York County, it's dark, like goldenrod dark.
Scott,
and I'm like, what are they eating?
Scott, I think it was 2 months ago, the York County Club meeting.
Yeah.
They had a researcher that came on that had done a study in Philly. It was around the Philly area, the Pittsburgh area, and then it was actually York County as well.
Okay.
And she talked. Now, this is just my delusional what I got out of it, right?
All
But
right.
she talked that the majority of what our bees in York County were getting was from the trees
Right.
for the water worth. You know, that's when they analyzed what was in it. That's kind of what they saw, and kind of along. So we've got all kinds of corridors of trees, like where I'm at.
Right.
And then I'm back off the farm fields pretty well. So, but the
Right.
majority of it was what they had said from trees for the what it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, my bees are, I mean, I think probably on the fringe of their forage range is going to be Cadorus State Park. So, you know, somewhere they're probably foraging more, a little bit closer, you know, a little bit before that, but that's kind of like on the fringe of that. So, I mean, so it is a lot of trees because
Cadorus is
otherwise,
a truckload of trees.
yeah, right. So, but I'm just trying to figure out like what, because I mean, I was Googling it and everything else, trying to figure out like what spring nectars are producing dark honeys. And I mean, the stuff that I was seeing, I don't even think grows in Pennsylvania. So, but I mean, it's just very, you know, very unusual. I've been surprised to see how dark
It was dark honey, you say?
it's dark. I was really surprised. It's like dark. Like here, like I'll grab like a bottle from like last year, right?
Was it buckwheat?
What's
The
that?
buckwheat's later in the season, though, isn't it?
Here, like what I'm gonna show you here, okay, is literally honey that I got off the hive at like the end of June, right? So, you know, like but like look how dark that is.
It's brown.
It's brown. It's
Yeah, that's-
aged.
It ain't buckwheat. It's more like poplar to me.
Yeah, it's either poplar or
But
could
like
be a
the stuff that
locust. or-
the stuff
God,
that
I'm
I
going to
would
say
get-
that's very similar in color to mine.
yeah, but
Could
the
it be
stuff
that
that I used to
water
get from here,
What's it taste like?
like honey, like it
Well,
doesn't.
kind of
Like
a
it doesn't
floral
taste.
note
It
does
doesn't
it have.
taste. It doesn't taste abnormal, right? Like it doesn't taste like it just tastes like honey, right?
Well, when
But
you taste it, do you get a floral note?
I don't. I'll have to taste it and let you know. I don't know.
Yeah, taste
But
it. Maybe it's
I
a
will, but-
spotted lanternfly.
Like the stuff I used to get here,
It could be.
I used to get here was like you could almost see through it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
more
because that is a wildflower, dandelion, early clover,
Yeah.
and then it may have some locust in it because locust honey is almost clear.
Right.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he has a locust grove right next to his hives, and it looks like murky sugar water.
Yep.
And somebody looked at that. He says, "What's this funny stuff?" You know, because he's used to seeing yellow or light amber or something like
Yeah.
that. And he says, "I don't know, but I think it's pure locust is what it really is."
Mhm.
Now with me, I got poplar trees and locust trees close to the hives, and I
Yeah.
get a sort of a light amber if everything goes well.
Yep.
Yeah.
But last year it kind of rained when the locust came in. I always call it the locust rains. And it was more kind of like your color. And I would say it was more 50 or 60 or 70% poplar trees and a
Yeah.
little bit of locust mixed in.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure it out. So,
Now I had some honey here that I got from a guy that I sent it back, or I kept a little what do you call it, taster of it, and it had like a cough syrup aftertaste to it. I'm like, what is this?
Cherry.
That's cherry.
That's
You know,
cherry.
I have never tasted anything like this.
That's cherry.
so now, Will, do you like? You obviously belong to York County Beekeepers, right? Like, do you go to a lot of the meetings, or?
I try to go. You know.
Yeah. I mean, do you
try
feel
to
like
go down.
there's enough happening in those meetings that it's worth the
No.
time spent? Okay.
No, but I try to
Yeah.
go. I try to
Right.
support my local club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Rick, I think it's what he's talking about. Is this fake honey? Is that what he's talking about?
Well, that's a big deal. It's what, out of Israel or something? They're making a synthetic honey now.
Some kind
Yeah,
of
it's
damn
approved to sell
synthetic
here.
honey.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
approved to be sold here.
How do you think that's
Just what
going to
we
go?
need.
That's not going to go over well at all.
I don't think it is either. It's going to be like the lab grown grown meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere.
That was the guy from Connecticut. I think Money Night was talking about that. Kirk.
Yeah.
It was some synthetic honey,
Yep.
and he
They
was
were
saying,
advertising it on Facebook. I saw
Yeah.
the ad running on there.
Well, I actually saw a product. It's not for like straight consumption. It's more for like recipes. So that like would like call for honey, and you would put it in there as a substitute. And it's made from apples, and it looks and has the same viscosity as honey, but it's made from apples.
made from apples.
Yeah, it's made from apples. Yeah, I don't know how they make it, but it's made from apples.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the plan for the training?
Saturday the 26th and Sunday the 27th,
What's the start time?
9 a.m.
What do I need? Just
You
myself.
need your bee jacket. And if you're going to wear gloves, bring your gloves. If you're going to go gloveless, that's fine. It's on you.
All right.
But at least, at the very least, you need a veil.
Sounds good. You going, Charlie? Maybe.
I hope so. I plan on it.
You going, Will?
Yep. I might be a little tired Friday night, but I'll be there with bells on Saturday morning.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Doesn't Robert stop in the Shenandoah with the bee packages?
Oh, I don't know that. I think he was heading more north and west. I know he's got one trip. I think he's headed directly to Ohio.
What's the name of his apiary? I think I might have bought bees off of him.
Heavenly Honey.
Yeah, I did. I think I bought some packages off of him.
Yeah, those bees were cooped up for longer than usual this time around because they did not make it very far from the colony before they were letting loose.
You would not believe what my white Ram truck looks like.
Oh, yeah, I would.
Is your Ford 250 looking just like it too, Bill?
Yep.
Did you get all your packages picked up, Bill?
Yeah, we got all the packages picked up and distributed the same day.
I know you were sick about that time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was not feeling well.
Stomach or head?
Both.
Ooh. Well, I'll tell you what, I wasn't right for about 3 weeks.
So, yeah, I couldn't go very far, put it that way.
Yeah. You were tethered.
Yes, I was. I was tethered.
Yes. Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
Brad.
So, has anybody seen that new Hilco, that creamer? What is it? A nine gallon one? Yeah.
Yeah.
$1,000.
Too bad it's out of stock.
Too bad it's $1,000 and it's six. And what's the other one? The 24? Is it 24 gallons? It's only $1,200. That's
Yeah, it's
That's-
100 liters. It's 26 gallons.
That's the better deal.
Yeah, but both of them are out of stock.
I like the idea of the small one though. You sitting right, just a small space, but the price isn't just right. It's not right. It's almost as much as the big one.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Hilco was selling something to process wax? It had a little steam jenny that came with it. And I don't know, I saw a couple videos on it, and I don't know. Seemed like it was pretty painful. I didn't know if you guys seen it or.
I saw it. I didn't actually watch the video.
What do you mean? Will I mean melting wax or something?
Yeah, it was to process your wax. You could put your cappings in it, and it had a tray that pulled out, and then but it talked about putting all your cappings in a, like in a paint strainer bag and putting them in there, and it processed out some stuff, and I thought it looked a little rough, and then talked about processing it again and again. I was just curious if anybody had one, or I looked hard at it, but processing wax is
Yeah, but see, there's
I don't
only
know.
so many times you can process that wax before it scorches it.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I got a solar wax melter. You run it through that with a piece of cheap paper towel and it really cleans it out really good.
I'm doing the same thing. I got a cheap solar wax melter. It's
Yep.
big enough I can put my queen excluders in it, and it cooks them off really nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I have a little bit of folded up 1/8 inch metal cloth with a couple paper towels wrapped into it, and put it in there, and you walk away from it, and you come back, and it's amazing how easy that works. I mean, I'd hate to process a lot of wax that way, but you just walk away from it and forget it, and you come back and you got nice wax.
Now, what are you guys using the wax for? Just to recoat your frames and stuff, or?
I sell mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
keeping
what I
everything
do is
that
I let it go down it drains down into a tub with a little bit of water in it and makes a bunch of irregular shapes. I collect all that and it's relatively clean. And then I have one of them electric pots with a spigot on the side of it for wax, Teflon coated. I bought it from Man Lake years ago. And I'll put that wax in there, and I will not spend $25 or more for a darn form that says beeswax in it. I'll go to the local grocery store and buy these little bread trays that are Teflon coated on the inside.
Yep.
And I figured out, and there's a little pencil line I put on there, and I'll be within an ounce or two, maybe 3 ounces at the most. It'd be 1 pound and 2 ounces maybe.
Yep.
And it's V'd, and it's Teflon. And I take and pour that or pull that valve, and then I take a little round strainer that you can buy, and then you put in some either cheesecloth, or I have those bucket strainers, paint strainers for buckets. I happen to buy a bunch of them from Amazon. So you take one of them and cut it up and fold it and use that as a filter. It catches all the chunky stuff and the black stuff and whatever, and run that wax through that hot wax through that thing, go into that pan, bring it up to that level and stop, and then take it over there and let it sit overnight. And then that chunk of wax will pop right out of there. And
You're just selling like a block of wax to anybody who wants to buy it.
I'm not making candles.
You're not like making candles or lip
Heavens-
balm or anything like that.
No, that's too much sugar for a cent.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then sometimes I'll have some small, like a 1/2 pound block of wax. I throw that back in there and melt it. And I had a bunch of drone frames, green ones, and they never work without really heavy wax put on them. And I wax the heck out of them in the wintertime, early spring, February. And they're ready to go when I'm plopping them in the highs. I had it on that last video. I had one I missed. I'm like, I don't know whether they're going to build on that wax out on that thing or not,
Right.
I might have to pull it out and wax it. I usually use the wax on some of the foundation I get, or somebody wants to buy a pound. There it is, $10.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what I'm gonna use a lot of my extra wax for, just because I'm really worried about buying wax because you just don't know where it comes from, So.
don't get all, wax. There ain't no pure wax out there anymore.
Uh-uh. There isn't.
I wax frames. My girlfriend and my daughters make some candles. Girlfriend makes lip balm. Makes
Wow.
she's making some different lotion bars and some different soaps and
Hey, Jarrett.
Now you guys are just for like she's making all that stuff just for you guys, or are you going to sell it?
we'll sell a little bit of it here and there.
Gotcha.
Select audience.
Yeah.
So any of y'all that's got a lot of excess wax, I barter with wax.
Mm.
I'll barter wax for equipment. And then I melt all that wax down into a bulk block and I sell it to a broker. The price of wax varies every day. So, and there's always a broker out here looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I make my money on it that way.
Well, now you can send a big block down to Baltimore to Larobe, and they'll print you some special comb, right?
Nope. I'll
Not
sell
gonna
it
get
to a
on that
broker.
train?
I sell it to a broker, and that broker sells it to people that make wax foundation. They sell it to pharmaceutical purposes. They sell it to breweries and all that.
And then you don't sell any of it in your shop, or you sell
Nope.
something? Gotcha.
If I get bulk wax in, it sits in the back on the shelf until I get 600 or 700 pounds of it. And I call the broker and say, I got this much wax. What do you give me for it per pound?
Nice.
And they'll look it up and see what it's worth that day. And they send me a check and a truck comes by and picks it up.
Sweet.
Now,
Yeah.
Brian there, Flower Street, he'll go out to Nobby and he'll buy a bunch of 15-pound blocks from Benny. And then he makes his wax candles and figurines and stuff.
Yep.
So that way. Now he makes some really top-notch candles and stuff. I'll have to say that much.
Yeah, I kind of stumbled onto a broker one time. I had 1,500 pounds of wax. And the most I've ever gotten for wax per pound is $37 a pound.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the average price when you get it?
22 to 25.
Really?
Yeah.
That's still not
Ain't
bad.
But to get that price, you've got to have big quantities of wax, more than 500 pounds, to make it worthwhile for them to send a truck to pick it up.
Yeah, I think Mr. Ed uses a lot of his wax for the those little bath bars that he makes. He says he does pretty well with those.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think like most of what he makes or whatever they sell at the gift shop of the Abbey, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So 21st B's asking me a good question. He's got pallets of wax pellets. Wax pellets aren't worth anything to me because I'd have to melt them down and make the blocks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I had coated some of my frames with. I had bought it, it came in pellets. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Will, the other night you were talking about I think it was you. You said that you had experience with those Purdue ankle biters or mite biters, mite maulers or whatever they're called now.
Ankle biters.
Yeah, the ankle biters.
I had a buddy that I went and got some bees from, and he had put down, underneath all his stuff, he had put like landscaping cloth down, or in some cases it was even plastic tarps, and just waste plastic tarps to kind of keep the weeds down and everything. And that's the only time that I really ran into ankle biters, but it was fairly insane.
Was
and I don't know, like, I'll have textile cloth down or ground cloth down, and then I'll put stone over it or something like that. I don't have the ankle biter issues, or I'll have them in grass. But that's the only time I saw it, and I had fairly high cowboy boots on, and boy, when you went in his enclosure and you started walking around on that stuff, it was a little crazy. Took a dozen stings to the leg. You know what I mean for that. So that was my only experience with it.
Okay. I wonder if that's typical for that strain, because I'm kind of interested in that, because I know that like Penn State worked with Purdue quite a bit on that too. I think Marianne Fraser, I think she was one of Penn State's researchers, and she was involved in that. And then I found out there was like several beekeepers around here who were actually involved in all that, like that Purdue mite biter research and trying different things, genetics with it. So, I mean, I have access to them around here, but I'm not really I don't know what to think of them. I'm thinking maybe buying one or two of those and just try them out. I don't know
I got one several years back, but I never seen much.
Did you?
To it.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't really sit there and test and go on.
Right. Yeah. I know that they say like they eliminate like 50% of your mites. I don't know, you know.
I don't think so.
Is that Harbo or
the Harbo's a test.
Yeah.
They came out with that, what, about 10 years ago, those ankle biters?
Yeah, it's been a few years, probably a little bit longer than that, maybe.
Yeah, they've been out for a while.
Who was that guy that Chris?
I don't
Chris
know. They must not be much, because you don't hear nobody talking about them anymore.
No, you don't.
No.
But you know what? Though I'm noticing, like,
what was it, Saskatchewan or bees or whatever they were.
Saskatchewan.
They hit the market for about a year, and then everybody fell out on them too.
Yeah.
The only thing that seems to be working now is you got the pole line is a hot thing here lately, but of course Bob Benny had an issue with him here recently on the video.
Yep.
And then
that was the supplier that did that to him.
The mean bees he had, right?
Yes. The mean
bees.
Yeah.
And then he's Caucasian. He's starting to do these Caucasian bees. And then you've got carnies. And then, of course, you got your Italians and your Russians, as far as I know of. And then, Bill, you got, what's it called? Lackshaw?
Yeah, but to see the Latshaw is a strain. It's a breed of Italian, a Carney, or a Caucasian. It's a strain of bee. It's not its own type of bee. It's a strain of bees.
A mix, or what do you call it? Or
it's a breed.
It's a breed of
bees. It's a breed of bees. So you can have a Latshaw Carney or a Latshaw Italian or a Latshaw Caucasian. You know.
And what's the Lackshaw part of it?
Dr. Latshaw in Ohio came up with strain, and he bred it for overwintering abilities, VHS tendencies, calmness or easy to handle, and overwintering and laying ability.
Now, I heard that Poline, Tom says that Poline came out of USDA lab.
Yeah.
Yep, it did.
I heard that Poline was really designed for pollination.
Mm-hmm.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
that's
mine too.
That's my understanding of it.
Yep.
And I don't know, different ones have been kind of jumping on the bandwagon about, we got to get Poline. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. They're for pollination. I'm not doing pollination.
Right.
Yep.
And I mean, Bob gets them because, well, they're pollination bees, but he's also a honey producer. So if a bee is going to pollinate, they're going to bring more nectar back to the hive. So.
Yeah, Russell, I don't know he wouldn't say where he got them from.
No, he wouldn't say which one.
And he said he
said he didn't want to say because he didn't want he thought that they were doing all that they could to try to correct the problem.
Yes.
So
now
he didn't want to kind of
Now at the end of the video, he did name all three producers, but he didn't say which one he was getting the hot bees from.
Gotcha.
I do know one thing. These like
Titan says Lackshaw also likes selecting for longevity.
Yeah.
He gets 4 to 5 out of 4 to 5 years out of the old queens. Have
Out
you
of the
noticed
breeder,
that?
yeah.
Is that? I thought you said your bees get mean after 2 years.
I crush them after 2 years, but the breeders you can get 4 or 5 years out of them.
Out of a breeder. Wow.
See, I really think that it just depends on I mean, like, I know everyone's talking about requeening every year, but, you know, if you're coming out of winter and you're watching that overwintered queen and her laying pattern is still really good, I think, why get rid of her? I
You
mean,
don't requeen in the spring.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if your queen is producing, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. Like, if she's producing, if her pattern is good, if there's no reason to be pinching her, then, you know, some people are just pinching them to pinch them. You know, I mean, like, they're just replacing them every year because they're just replacing them. Whether they're
in the Mid-Atlantic states, you shouldn't be replacing queens every year.
Right, every 2 years typically.
Yes, every 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, but see, I found that out the hard way last year.
I learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
But I see in Facebook groups all the time, people are talking about getting rid of them every year. And I'm thinking, well,
I know all my bees requeened themselves. Most of them requeened themselves last year. And this year, my bees they're bustling. They're doing better than they ever have. I've never had spring bees like this before. Yeah. And so the only thing I did was I used the Formic Pro, but that was only on 4 hives last fall. And then I did feed the global patties, but I didn't even feed that till March. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. I really think it was the queens, the requeening, and then the Formic Pro definitely.
Like every time I watch your videos, Darren, I always think to myself, Darren has such nice bees, right? Like I never see them like, you know, lighting you up or, you know, really like going. Do they?
Oh yeah,
the camera's not doing it.
Well, my bees get to the point. Like, I had that nuke last year. It was so bad that I tried to film myself like breaking that. I did 5 splits on that nuke to get it under control, and I tried to get a video of that, but I couldn't do the video because the bees were just covering the camera lens. It wasn't any fun to work anymore, so I didn't even bother with a video. But I've had my share of bad bees, spicy bees.
I mean, I have one box that's really just grumpy all the time. So I have to walk away from the yard every so often and just take a breather because I just can't stand them anymore.
That's the hive. We bought those bees at the same place, but mine are really nice, I believe, right?
Yeah.
You get rid of that damn queen.
And now I had 2 colonies from there. One of them died over the winter. I guess it was something, you know, I mean, like it was a disaster. It was like it looked like a murder scene in there, right? With all of the, you know, all of the nosema and everything else all over the place and up in the sugar and everything else. So, I mean, I said, you know, if I had to lose a colony, you know, maybe that one was the better one to lose because, you know, I wasn't so broken up about it because they were grumpy as well. But I still have 1 left from that place. So.
Well, I don't know. One thing, of course, I'm not sure about it this year because of the weather, because we were, like I was talking about how my hives are not, the ones that had more of a wind block after I took the covers off, they seem to be like I like them to be, you know, boiling over. And the ones that are out in the open behind me there, where they're getting that wind after I took off my covers, it took them about 3 weeks to, you know, to get back up to speed. But I'm not sure how they are right now. But when I put them brand new queens in there, I had like little teeny, that much brood on a medium frame, you know, not much at all, just maybe a 6-inch oval. And I pinched them queens and I put them new queens in there, and they went from that to multiple frames of, you know, corner to corner brood or near to it. And I understand why your commercial guys do what they do. You know, them bees have got to produce, and they got, you know, in order for them to make a living at it. And it's just, I talked to Mickey down there at Hardeman's, and of course now here down in Georgia where they got that, you know, 12-month out of the year type thing about laying eggs. Like Brad here at Cajun Homestead, he requeens every year because that queen
Right.
wears out in a year and a half. Next year, halfway through the honey season, that queen will die, and you gotta, you know, you gotta replace that queen every fall down there. Yeah, you can get 2 years out of here, but I can definitely tell if you're. I'm wondering whether I do like Doug told me to do, is replace those queens every, you know, half of my queens every year, and see if that, you know, where if you want that high production. And then I'm thinking also with this Demery, are we speeding up the burnout process of that queen by making her lay constant?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is she getting burned out faster? You know, because you're making her lay so constant all the time.
Yeah, it seems logical.
Charlie, not just that on that rolling Demeray. One thing that I was thinking was that when you're shaking that queen off like that, I don't know how many times you do that in a summer, but I know when I did that rolling Demeray, like I didn't have any luck with it. I had, like, it seemed like my bees did a little bit with it, but I had queen problems 2 years in a row that I did that, and I wondered, just shaking those bees off like that, if that has something to do with it. Shaking that queen. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, most cases she's not going to be on that cat frame. She's going to be on the other where the eggs are at and stuff. I mean, I try to watch for her. You know,
And Charlie's got a good point about the Demarays. You know, yes, you are requiring that queen to lay, to whereas in your normal hive, she gets a little bit of a break between brood cycles. But in the Demaray, as soon as there's a cell open, she's laying. And if you're doing the rolling Demaray and you keep putting in drawn comb for her to lay in, she doesn't really get a break at all. So the thing I noticed about queens is once they hit that 3-year-old mark, I've had more swarms out of 3 and 4-year-old queens than I've had out of a 2-year-old queen.
Mm-hmm.
My older queens, I noticed, brood up slower, you know, in the spring is what I've seen. And then I lost 3 production colonies this year. And looking back on it, they were all queens I should have pinched because they were slow last year, you know, brooding up. And I should have pinched all them then. Well, they ended up dying over winter, you know, for whatever reasons. But my double deep production colonies, I lost 3, and I contributed to older queens is what I think it was.
Well, it's like a friend of mine says that I work with these package bees and stuff. He says, you know, it's like buying, he always makes the quote, it's like buying a puppy dog in the window. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're getting until you get
Exactly.
it. And, you know, I bought brand new fresh queens last year and they took off like rockets.
Yeah.
But come springtime, I've got a hive out there. It's a dead out. So she didn't last but a year.
Yeah.
Out of 15 queens, there's 1 or 2 queens that wasn't worth a darn.
Yeah.
They just, you know, they fizzled out. So they, you know, people say, well, they didn't get mated well or whatever. Well, maybe, I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
It's, you know, but I think we have to be, I'm starting to think like that commercial beekeeper more so all the time and look at it. You know, I'm trying to produce a certain amount of honey every year. I'm looking at, do I need to get 18 more? I need, 18 production hives in order to get 1,500 pounds, without me having to buy any honey or, run out of honey or something like that. And then I have to look at like, all right, how many nukes do I need? I mean, I had less than 12 going into the winter, and now I got 4 left after utilizing my nukes for what they're there for me to replace dead outs and stuff that I don't have to buy, be frantic right now trying to buy packages or nukes and stuff like that. So
It all depends on what you want out of your bees or what you're doing with them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did not originally intend to buy packages this year, but I wanted to, just grow a little bit faster. So, but I don't think, unless I would lose most of my colonies next year, I'm not buying anymore.
yeah, I could do like Brad there from Faith Apers. He calls them zombie hives where you take the old queen out, put it in a nuke and let her finish out her days, making brood for you, and you pulling resources out of that hive.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Until she starts spitting all drones.
Yeah. Or until she decides she's had enough and swarms.
Now, Todd says the queens lay a given amount a day, and if there's no room, she will double up. You mean lay 2 eggs in one hole? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
When I graft is when I see it all. I see it all the time, and the nurse bees sort it out. I guess you mean by cannibalizing.
Yeah.
I'm not seen or heard that.
I'd be a little scared if I was seeing multiple eggs in a cell.
Yeah, would be too.
Yeah, that'd be more like laying workers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Then you got issues with laying workers, and you got to fix that.
Sometimes
that's no good to fix.
Yeah,
that's ugly.
Yeah, sometimes a new queen will lay like maybe a couple, 2 eggs in like just a couple of cells, but not like the entire frame, right?
Yeah, she'll lay a couple eggs for a couple of days in frames until she gets her inside straightened out. It's where she can just pop 1 egg out at a time.
Right.
Yep. I see that a lot.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of a, for me, it's a management thing now. It's like, all right, you got to tweak yourself in managing how you want to run. It's like, I'm looking now since of last year being kind of an eye opener, talking with like Brad and James and everybody up in Canada about, and also Troy Hall up there on the phone up in New Hampshire. It's like, definitely you want to get, for me, this is my second honey season. And after that, it's time to requeen everything. So I need to get on the ball making queens for myself. And so I can replace them girls after the flow and do that kind of stuff. And also rebuild my nuke population up. So that's my game plan for this year. And I'm curious of what I'll see this time next year. If I got good young queens that are fresh, they haven't did any honey production, as laying a bunch of eggs for that honey production. And I see like booming hives like I like to see come springtime, then I know that it's all about keeping fresh queens, 1 year olds in there. Because it's like Troy said up there in New Hampshire. Now they get 6 months worth of snow up there. And he said, yes, he can have a really good 2-year-old and he'll let her go through to become a 3-year-old. And he says, sometimes he gets burnt and they'll die over the winter. And sometimes they make it through the winter and they'll lay up that third year. And he says, you can definitely tell that she's a 3-year-old and not a 1 or a 2-year-old because the amount of brood she's producing and compared to the other girls.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. So it, definitely, it's just the way it is, I mean, people talk about, I don't know, Bill, you've been at it for longer than I have, talking about where you used to have 4 or 5-year-old queens back in the day prior, I'll say pre Varroa, but were they highly productive?
You could definitely see the difference in them between a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old queen. You could definitely see a difference, but at that point, they weren't stressed by parasites. They weren't stressed by anything, outside disease or outside stressors. I mean, the worst thing we had to deal with was wax moths, mice, and no semen. Those are the worst things and maybe some tracheal mite. But that was it. Those are the worst things we had to worry about back then.
Yeah, we didn't have the viruses and everything.
Exactly. You didn't have the diseases caused by the Varroa mite back then because we didn't have Varroa mite.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, you could put bees in a box and walk away and they took care of themselves.
Exactly.
And you weren't, I don't know, you probably weren't you were in there adding supers.
Yep.
But you weren't in there doing anything else or manipulating or disturbing that hive nest.
Nope, you weren't. You didn't need to be. Because you didn't need to be down there searching to make and doing and pulling nurse bees out and doing mite washes and all that stuff. You didn't have to do it. So there was no reason to dig down into the brood nest.
Mm-hmm.
You did it once a year.
Now, Bill, back in the old days, did beekeepers used to do all the grafting and all that now, or did they just let the bees just requeen themselves? Or
well, we would do grafting, but we did it differently. What we would do is the bees would create a swarm cell, and we'd harvest the swarm cell. We'd go in, we'd take a hair curler, not the curler cage that you think of now, but a hair curler, and work it up over that cell, and take your pocket knife and cut it off the frame. And then you've got that cell in that curler, and then if you're going to do a split, you go to the hive that you need the queen cell in. You have a strike anywhere match with you. You strike that match and let it burn all the sulfur off of it, blow it out, and hold that queen cell up to that wax and melt it right back on the wax. That was the old way.
Now, when you were talking about the hair curler, was that the ones you borrowed from your mother?
Exactly. Yep.
And that was on wax foundation, I'm assuming.
Huh?
That was on wax foundation, I'm assuming.
It was on wax foundation.
No plastic back then.
Yeah, we didn't have plastic foundation. It was all wax. And it was all cut comb wax.
Yeah.
And we would knock them down to 2 boxes for the winter. And they would go through the winters just fine. 2 deeps for the winter, and they'd go through just fine. We didn't have to worry about insulating and all this other stuff that everybody does now. Now if you don't insulate, you're not going to get through the winter.
Yeah, I always hear a lot of people or see a lot of people in the Pennsylvania Facebook group that are always, saying don't need to insulate in Pennsylvania. You don't need to wrap your hives in Pennsylvania. And if it works for them, that's great. But for me, I mean, I don't know why you would want to take the chance. So I wrap my hives every year. So
yeah. So when I started beekeeping in 1970, 20 years before the Varroa mite ever hit Virginia. Did we have cars back then? Yes, we had cars back then, Tom. But that 20 years,
cars.
Yeah, they were Flintstone cars. You had to push them with your feet. So that 20 years of Varroa-free beekeeping, if people had to go back and do that now, they would be lost. They wouldn't know what to do because there's very few beekeepers out here. I mean, other than JW and maybe Russell and a few others that have, and maybe Brad. I'm not sure how long Brad's been keeping bees, but they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know how to manage the hives. So they'd be just totally lost. I love you too,
agree.
Tom. Thank you.
I agree, Brad. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I.
So,
that's what I'm learning. Is it's better
Yep.
off just requeening,
Yep.
and the evidence has been shown there that if you want that super strong, robust hive to really make you some honey and all that, you got to have fresh queens in there.
Yep. You're right. You do. You got to have
And
mid-Atlantic states every other year.
at least.
At least every other year.
Now,
And
do you
if you're
feel-
down south like Cajun is, southern states, they're laying 24/7 through almost 365 days a year. You're going to requeen every year.
I mean, do you feel like the bees really know when they need a new queen more than?
Oh yeah, they know.
Right.
I know, but I don't really see that procedure process.
Nope.
And
Not
They're
as
just
much
slow to build
anymore.
up.
You don't see it as much anymore. I found 2 super seeder cells when I first time I went into them this spring, and I killed them. And so I let her go another 2 weeks until I could get a queen out of California. And I mean, she was a pretty red mahogany colored queen, beautiful queen, but she was just moving slow. She wasn't doing much. So I picked her up and I looked at her and I said, "It's time for you to go." Threw her down on the ground, put a new queen in.
Yeah.
When are you going to have your latch-all queens?
Hopefully by the end of the second week of May. So I've been having a running discussion with Queen Guy here tonight while I've been texting back and forth with him.
DC wants to know. I'm not, as far as the losses we had, I don't know what that is out there. I think it's a virus situation.
Yeah.
And then I also think, I hear so many of the commercial guys are still using Aprivar. And I mean, it's proved here with my bees with the laboratory, with the laboratory results that I got back from the lab. They don't work. It's done. I'm done even buying it.
Yep. It's expensive. Now they reformulated it.
Yeah, I don't know what that amounts.
But when they reformulated it, they made it weaker. When they reformulated it. So
Now, Charlie, didn't I hear you say like a while back that you were still going to use ApiGuard?
I'm going to use ApiGuard, not Aprivar.
Right. Okay.
yeah.
ApiGuard is thymol.
Yeah.
Aprivar is amitraz, which is a synthetic.
Right.
Yeah. It's a
So
man-made product.
basically, I'm going 100% organic.
Yeah.
Thymol, formic acid, and oxalic acid.
Gotcha.
But if you're going to use ApiGuard, you got to follow the directions on that package.
And
Because
the ApiGuard is that like the round trays that you put in?
Well, unless you got a bucket.
unless you get a bucket,
Okay.
then you get the pads. But you need the directions have changed on ApiGuard. And they changed a couple years ago. If it's above 77 degrees, you only put a half dose on them.
And that's the truth right there Brad's talking about.
Yep.
That's
If you put that full 50-gram dose on them and it's above 77 degrees, you're going to kill some bees and you'll probably kill your queen.
Mm-hmm.
And,
But they
and
did
make
it.
sure you don't have OA. in your hives because they say there's some
Yep.
type of reaction
Because
to OA with the apicard.
thymol and OA are not compatible. So if you've got Roxanne strips on or sponges or shop towels or whatever, you got to pull them off.
Yeah.
Before you put that thymol in there, because you will kill queens and you will kill bees.
Right.
Because at that point, the apicard and the OA, that gas that it makes, you've heard of chlorine gas, Scott? You've heard of chlorine? All right, chlorine gas is deadly.
Okay.
So it makes a deadly gas to the bees.
Gotcha.
And it'll kill every bee in the hive.
So when do you use Apigard? Like in the
heat of the year.
Oh, so like after the honey flow.
After you pull honey, because now I pull honey July 4th weekend every year. It's because, and now it's even more important that you pull it before the 15th of July because of the stupid lantern fly.
Yeah.
And it's even more important to pull it early now. So you pull your honey and then you treat with your apicard.
That's my plan. I'm gonna pull when I pull honey in July, first week, second week of July. I'm gonna hit them all with thymol. I just got to watch the temperatures.
So last year I used Formic in August, but only because there was a window where the temperatures cooperated. But normally, in like a normal year, that's not typical for July. It's usually too hot to use it.
Well, see, it's the first 3 days are the most important on Formic Pro.
Yeah.
Okay. But you also have to watch the humidity level.
Okay.
Formic Pro works best on the lower end of the temperatures,
right,
with a low humidity.
Yeah.
That's when it works the best.
Right.
So
I'm not going to try to use it in August this year. I'm going to try to use it sooner before it gets too warm.
Well, why don't you try? I use Formic Pro. I'll use it around Labor Day weekend. It was on a Monday, I think, which was Labor Day. And we had a week there of, it was 80-degree weather, maybe 75-degree weather. At the lowest, it was 75. It was more like 80. And it was low humidity. It was very comfortable weather.
Okay.
And to me, now I talked to Nod about this, and they said I was, didn't know what I was talking about, but humidity, I feel, plays a big part. I think humidity intensifies the gassing as far as, and if you have that low humidity, the bees don't, I'm talking about when you used to put Formic on, the bees would come out of the front and hang all out in the front and everything.
Right.
I put Formic on there. I don't see that.
Yeah.
And the first thing is, if you got screen bottom boards, you close them up.
Right.
You pull that entrance reducer out. If you're using it, you want a wide open entrance completely. And now I always have a couple little wooden blocks up on top. You see me putting them up there. That jacks that telly lid up a little bit. It gives you a little bit of a chimney effect.
Yeah.
Of airflow. And I have no problems about killing, they don't kill any of my queens that I had.
Yeah.
And but now, like, Nancy comes on here and a couple other folks, they are all about putting Formic on in July. And I'm like, man, you're playing with fire, because
yes, you are.
July is hot and humid. And August is about the same way. I try, and then this coming year, I'm planning to try to requeen right after the honey flow. And I was going to do some treatments with April Guard, but because I'm requeening, I won't do that. I'll just wait.
Well, you can still do it, but do it before you requeen.
Well, the treatment, you mean?
Yeah, do the treatment before you requeen, not after. That way, the old queen's still in there. You've done your treatment, and if by chance she's old enough and she doesn't make it, you haven't lost anything.
That's true too.
Then you requeen, and now all that new queen has got to do in the fall is lay winter bees. She's not going through a honey flow. She's laying her winter bees, and then she goes through the winter. Now that following spring, she sees a honey flow,
And she'll be banging it out.
and then she'll be banging babies out left and right.
Well, guys, it's about 20 minutes 11. I'm going to go ahead and shut the chat down. Thanks for everybody for coming in. And hope everybody got a little something out of tonight's chat. And we will see you Monday night on Bills at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I might be there. I'm not sure. And next week, I don't know. I'll have to let everybody know. If I can't make it, I will put a post up and let you know. I might be in Georgia. I might be coming home from Georgia and traveling to Bills.
Yeah. So if you're not going to make it next Friday, Charlie, let me know, and Will and myself and Darren, we can meet at the store on Friday night and do the chat from
All
the
right,
store.
Yeah, you can take my spot or whatever.
Yeah. So that
All
way it's consistent.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me go ahead. I'm going to end the scene. We'll see you. I'll see you Monday night if everything goes well, and possibly next Friday. Well, actually, yeah. If I'm next Friday, I'll either be at Bill's. We'll do the chat from down there if I'm there.
You and I may be there cross-eyed after being up for 36 hours, right?
I might be cross-eyed.
Yeah.
Going to get to bed and with the darn chat.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, everybody. We'll see y'all later. Thanks for coming in.
And we're back.
And we're still live.
Yeah, we're still live.
Well, Scott, I'm thinking about the Formic Pro, like up here in Pennsylvania. Our weather isn't like what it used to be. I think our summer temperatures, I think, have dropped quite a bit. I'm just getting your opinion on this. I think, and Will also. I think if you find that right, like
Hold
that,
on.
that. We still live, Charlie?
Yeah.
We are still live for some
Did
reason.
you-
I don't know why.
Did you hit end stream?
Yeah.
Huh. Encore. Brian says encore.
Crazy.
Darren, I screwed up last year. From a standpoint of I got greedy and kept my honey supers on probably 3 weeks too long, treated late, and that hurt me.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of
I'm
all
gonna-
night.
So I'm gonna, like I say, I'm gonna, first, second week of July, honey be damned, because I don't want to lose the colonies that I lost last year. So I'm gonna treat with Apiguard as soon as I get the honey supers off and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And-
I'm going to look for a window in July and use Formic Pro.
Yeah, I had really super good success with Formic Pro and oxalic acid.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I notice a big difference in my bees, and like I said, it's probably the queen too. It wasn't the global patties because I didn't have them on long enough. It's the queen and I think the Formic Pro. So if I can find that window in July, some cooler weather, I'm going to do it. And we usually do up here in Pennsylvania. We get a few cooler days here and there. So
Let me jump into the rabbit hole for a second. So like here in York